So you're almost like you put them in a certain kind of a state, the listeners, it's a gift that you particularly carry
I
within
appreciate
you.
it. I know that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
I think-
compassion and
Yeah,
love of
because-
life that
because
comes
I-
through
Well, that's
constantly.
important.
Because I
I grew up
thought
with
that-
13 children, and it was a very loving, close family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we really did. We really. It was
Because
my
I
parents.
thought
They
that
were just good
Then
Slovak
it was
parents.
somebody
If we
else
had
really
arguments,
doing this.
like we did, 7 boys, we were talking about Vietnam, we were having all the arguments. She made us at the door hug and kiss each other before we left that room.
That's it. Mm.
Where did you grow
That
up?
was very Slovak, in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
But my parents, they were Slovakians.
Slovakia.
Right.
You got
So-
to Pittsburgh.
And
when
that's
you
what
were-
I learned to do, is that you'd never go to bed angry with anybody,
You can
I
argue,
never forget my
but,
mom making us
then-
do that. We'd, all right, and then the next day you can't remember what it was the argument was about. Anyway,
That's the best
you'll
way.
appreciate this, most of you here in this table who have Czech and Slovak, and also Edward too. And also, this has to do with a poem I was so happy that I wrote called The Hunger Wall. It's the title actually of a book too, Vladovazet. And it's about Charles IV, that he had them build this wall, Vladovazet, down to the Vltava River, because he felt sorry for the poor, and he wanted to pay them. He had them build it just so he can give them money to pay them.
That they would have the honor, that they will not get it
Yeah,
like
That they were
beggars,
doing it.
but they will be working for it. So
Right.
that
It was the
they
first
will
public
keep
works
it
project
on.
in history.
Mhm.
So when I heard this, I was sitting at Lafka, this beautiful place right near the Charles Bridge, sitting there with a dam and the water, and you can just imagine the swans were there, and there's the Charles Bridge. And there was this restaurant, Nebozicik, which is where,
That was easy.
yeah, this is where Havel and Clinton met for dinners, and I used to go up there always for dinners. And I just remember the smoke, and then there was this wall. And that's when I asked the waitress, what is that? That's like a fortress wall, and then she explained it to me. So with those images, you'll follow this poem. It's called The Hunger Wall. And we had just had our riots in Los Angeles, by the way. We had just had the riots. And the way I saw the riots here was a widening abyss between the rich and the poor.
Yeah.
It was
Right
less
after
about
Rodney
race.
King.
It was more about that. And then I went to, 6 months later, Czechoslovakia was splitting for the same reasons. A poorer Slovakia from a much wealthier Czech Republic. So I wrote the poem. After walking to the bridge at Karlova, we found the river where at dusk the swans dipped their beaks into the falls for sanctuary. The trees closed in for shade. We gazed through willows to the opposite hill, a single light from a room growing thick with sadness. Solemn smoke now cooked the evening meal. We were just about to treat our hunger well when, out of sunlight, undeclared, a shaded mass of stone began to stretch its neck along the slope. It would scan the water for a quarter hour before the foliage rubbed its throat, some internal hunger now assuaged. For only moments, then again, the impulse thumbed like whalebone on a drum. The poplars began to rustle. A hawk, spiraling like an aspen deep in chatter, betrayed its nest to block the sun. The dam below rose up to bolder water, as if to show how easily wars are won. They feed the hunger wall, the waitress points, the fingers in her skirt rubbing coins, her hands are shoring up to feed the past. I don't want the poor to endure me, she said, King Charles said to those he paid, as he watched their faces building borders, hunger for a wall, as she faced the smoldering Vltava River, watching hunger well. And I use the word well in 3 different ways throughout. We're very good at watching hunger. We watch it very well. Welling up of hunger, welling up of the waters, and then the idea of a well. So I will leave you with that. I must
Thank
go
you.
because my daughter is sitting there saying,